Hello everyone, so today I'm going to show you how to make these braided wire work earrings, and this is what mine look like here. So you have this braid of wire running all the way around, and then I've added beads into this as well to give it a nice little pop of colour. And I just made these teardrop shape, but you could make them another shape like round for instance. That's completely up to you, and they're really simple, quick and easy to make. So they hang nice like the ear from that. So if you want to learn how to make them, then keep watching. So it's these materials here that I'm going to be using to make these earrings. What I have here is a regular round silver coated copper wire, and this is a 0.8mm. So this is the only wire that I'm going to be using throughout. So it has some thickness and some strength to it, but it's still also nice and soft to work with. And then we need some beads. In this case I'm working with some 4mm rounds. These are just some purple or magenta coloured coated hematite gemstone beads. You can obviously use whatever you want to, and you also don't have to use rounds, so you can play around with other shapes of beads. And then you'll need whatever earring findings you want to use, and some jump rings here to attach the earrings to the findings. I'm just using these earring posts and butterfly backs, but obviously it's all personal preference. So let's get it together and let's get started. And then as for the lengths of wire that we'll need, I have 3 lengths here of 0.8mm of about 40 centimeters each. So that's just what I'm going to be working with, and to make roughly the size earrings that I want, but you can obviously make them bigger or smaller. It's all personal preference. So if you want to make them quite a bit bigger than what mine are going to end up being, then you might want to use some longer lengths of wire. And I've then taken these lengths of wire and then I put them into a little spring clamp here to help just hold them together and get started with the braid. It just makes it a bit easier. So this is just kind of a little mini spring clamp because I've only got the 3 lengths, it's plenty. But you can just use whatever you have handy. And then we need to start off making the braid. So this is just a regular 3-strand braid, so like say you used to do with hair or cord or something. We're just using the wire, and the only difference is the wire just reacts obviously a little bit differently than something soft, but it's still the same basic principles. So I first want to just make 1 or 2 movements here before I start adding in the beads. So I've also, by the way, left a little bit of the ends of the wire sticking out, so I have those to finish off the piece with at the end, so just somewhere between 5 to 10 centimeters. But then what I'm going to do is take one of the outside wires, it doesn't matter what side you start from, bring that over the next one and into the middle, like that. And then I take the outside one from the other side over the next one and into the middle. And this is just to start off the braid like I said. So here we go. So now I want to start adding in my beads straight away here, because obviously we don't want too much of a braid, there's no point in that without the beads. So what I'm going to do is I'm always going to add my beads to the center one. So I'm just going to take a bead here and then go to the end of your wire, and then I take my middle one, the one that's currently in the middle, add my bead onto that, and then let it fall all the way up to where the braid is being formed. Just like that. And then you can see it's going to sit and perfectly land underneath the kind of little movements in the braid we've already done. So the bead is going to sit there, and it's going to sit at an angle as well within the braid, but it doesn't really matter, especially if they're rounds, but still gives a nice look. So now we need to continue the braid, and you got to remember I just took my left one over and into the middle, so now I need to go back to the right one. So all I do is I bring that still over and into the middle. And now it's just going to naturally form around the outside of the bead there. So we're just kind of using the bead as a natural way to help shape the wire as well. So bring that all the way into the middle. And I also like to always keep kind of pulling my wires through my fingers and hands to help keep it warm, easier to work with, but also smooth it out, because as you're moving the wires you're going to get some bends and kinks in it. But then to avoid it becoming something serious like a bad kink, keep kind of smoothing them out. It makes it much easier to control. But you can see here I'm not going to put my next bead on yet because we need to fully kind of close this bead in first, but we're missing the other side. So I'm going to take my left one over and into the middle, and again it's just going right around the outside of the bead. So again, kind of using the bead as a guide to where the wire is going to go. Just like that. So basically, whenever I put on a bead, I'm always going to do 2 movements before I add on the next bead. So I've just done those 2 movements, I'm going to then grab my next bead and then add that onto my wire. And again, this is now the middle wire, the one that I just moved. So put that on and then bring it all the way up, and then you can see it's going to fall right there on that middle wire and sit basically right below the previous one, but now in like the next section of the braid. And then the next step is just continue the braid. So now I'll take my right one and bring that over and into the middle around the outside of the bead. So there we go, and just take it nice and easy with the wire. And then I'm going to take the one on the other side, because like I said, we need to completely close in the bead and we need to do 2 movements between each bead. That over and into the middle, just like that. And you can see it's just a regular 3-strand braid, the technique of it. And then it's just the wire is a little bit different to work with. But then that's all there is to it. I'm now in the position where I need to add my next bead. And like I said, always do it to the middle wire. So add that on, bring it all the way up, and then that's going to sit underneath the previous one. And then we start with the next movement. And bring that over, so that's one. And then the other one, so the wire from the other side, over and into the middle. And then that's 2 movements. And now I need to put on a bead again. And you just continue like this. And then it's really up to you how long you want to make this, because how long you make this determines how large your earring is going to be, so your loop or whatever shape it is you want to make. So you can kind of shape it as you go to see, and if you want to make it larger, you can then always kind of straighten it out again and then continue making some braids. So keep going like this until you reach the length that you want it. So I now continued with the braid here, and I've reached the full length that I want mine to be. And just for reference, the full length of this is about 12 centimeters, and also you can either measure it here, but you could also say count the beads instead. What I have is 20 beads in total, so that's just what I'm going to be using. Like I said, you can of course make it larger or smaller, that's completely up to you. But now what we need to do is shape this, and again you can also make it whatever shape you want to. So say a round one, can make it completely round so it's more like a hoop earring, or you can make it more teardrop like what I'm going to do. So that's completely up to you. So what I have here is just a little mandrel. It's just a round one I'm going to be using, because then I'm going to shape this length of the braid around it and then have it come up towards the top, and not shape the top but just have them meet. So like this. That's what then obviously creates that teardrop shape. And you can always adjust the shape more a bit later on. And what I'm going to then do is intertwine the wires here, because what we have is 2 lengths on one side and one on the other, kind of going out to each their own side, and on the other end of the braid is the opposite. So I'm intertwining them like this, so basically we're making the wires go like that. Then I'm going to bring them fully together, and like I said, don't worry too much about keeping the shape. Obviously you want to not make it too out of shape, but it will maybe lose its shape a little bit as you're working with this, but don't worry too much about it. So like that, and then what I'm going to do is grab my chain nose pliers here, because now we need to start with attaching the 2 ends of the braid together, so they're also going to stay in place and we actually have a fixed shape. So what you're going to find is we have some wires more specifically in the middle, and that's kind of the middle wire from each side, you could say. So the side with 2 wires. And what I'm going to do is just choose one of them, and I want to bend this so it comes straight upwards instead of out to the side. So you can see there, doesn't really matter which one you choose. And then I'm going to take the middle wire from the other side that's going straight towards it, and I'm going to take that, I'm just going to straighten this out a little bit more. I want it to come straight up right from that midpoint where the 2 sides meet. I'm going to take the middle one from the other side here, that's this one, and then I want to shape this around the one that I just bent. So I'm wrapping it around nice and tight really, because this is now what we're doing, is connecting the 2 sides. So just wrap it all the way around, and you can also use your pliers here to help tighten it around the wire. and also to make it nice and neat. There we go. Push it down a bit, and I'm just going to wrap it just a little bit further. We've done one full wrap. I'm just going to wrap it just a little bit further over towards the other side here. And that's going to be sufficient. We don't need to do too many more wraps really. It's going to last well enough. Just want to tighten it a little bit more. Just so it's going to be nice and secure. So there we go. So that's one kind of dealt with, because I wrapped that one wire around that middle one. So what I want to do is get rid of the one that I've just wrapped. So I'm going to take some wire cutters here, and I'm going to go right into where the wraps end and cut off the excess, just like that. And then again, whenever you cut off your wire like that, always take your chain nails and just make sure to press in the very end. Otherwise, if you put your finger over it, you can feel that it's kind of sticking out a little bit, and that very end is going to catch or scratch on something, and obviously we want to avoid that as much as we can, whatever piece of jewellery it is that we make. Well, obviously especially here earrings, so you don't want it to catch too much on the hair if you can help it. So there we go. So the two sides are now attached, but you can still kind of move around a bit. So now we need to attach the rest of the wires, but also start getting rid of them as well. So then we basically want to move outward now to the next set of wires. So not the outer ones, you can tell which ones are the furthest out. I want to do the next ones that are still in the middle, and you can see they're kind of wanting to go around that middle wire that's going straight up in the same direction, so almost kind of chasing each other. So I'm going to take advantage of that and continue that. So I'm going to just start with one side, bring it around that middle wire again, above the wraps that we just did before, bring it around there, and then I'm going to grab the one from the other side before I go too much further and do the same. So just bring it around and up to that same level. And then I want to continue wrapping these two kind of side by side, almost like they're chasing each other. So just wrap a bit at a time and then move over to the other one. Wrap that a bit around and then move over to the other one. And we just want to do about 1 to 1.5 full wraps again. Doesn't need to be any more than that. And once you feel like you're there, and also making sure it's going to seem like it's nice and secure, just going to do a little bit more, just like that. And I also want the wires to kind of end on opposite sides, just like that, because that obviously fits where they came from. So when I'm happy with that, I'm then going to take my wire cutters again, because I want to then get rid of these ones. Just cut them off the exact same way, back where you have the last wrap, and then cut off the excess. Same on the other side, and cut that off. And again, remember to use your chain nails pliers or flat nails and just squeeze them in. So now we have basically an end right here on each side of the wrap, and you just want to make sure both of them are tucked in nicely. And a way to always check that is, of course, by then running your finger over it, and if it feels fine, then it will be fine. If you can still feel it a bit too much, then you just want to tuck it in a bit more. So we now have one wire left on each side there, and all we want to do is the exact same thing. I'm going to start with one of them, bring that around the outside there up towards above the other wraps that we just did, but still around that middle wire, and then the same, the one from the other side, bring that around and upwards. And same principle, we're using both of them at the same time, so they're kind of chasing each other here. And we also kind of get a little bit of decoration at the top for that, and just a nice finishing off. And same principle, about 1 to 1.5 wraps is plenty. It's going to be secure enough. So, let's go see where we are. Something like this is fine. And then again, I'm going to cut off the excess by just cutting them down to where the last wrap is. And the same with the other side. And again, squeeze these ends in. All the way around, just like that. And now we've done got rid of all those excess wires at the ends of the braid. And obviously you can see you still got the teardrop shape. You can always adjust that. And obviously maybe just leave that till you've done both of them, so you can make them look as even and symmetrical as possible. So you can obviously compare them to each other. So there we go. All that's left to do now is use this very middle wire that we've been wrapping around to then make a wrap loop. So I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, I'm going to place them a bit above the last wrap, so I have a bit of a gap there of bare wire where we need to use that to make the wraps with or onto. But I'm also holding it to the side like this. That all really depends on whatever findings you're using, so the earring findings. But these are going to hang properly the way that I'm using mine. And then you just want to take either a round nose plier, or I'm just using my 6-step Belgian pliers here. So I make sure that both of the earrings has got the same size loop. Place that just where I put in the angle, and then shape the wire around that, reposition, and then take it all the way around to have one full circle there. And then I prefer to grab my chain nose pliers and actually place them onto the circle, hold on to that so it doesn't come out of shape as we're wrapping it. And then I take the excess here and now basically fill in that little gap of the bare wire that we left. So just fill that in with a few wraps. So we have a wrap loop that's more secure, but also obviously we finish it off nicely. And then cut off the excess. And then also, like I said, make sure to tuck that in to make it as comfortable as possible. And then there basically you have your finished earring. All that's left to do now is I'm going to use my flat nose and chain nose pliers here, and obviously use my jump ring, open it up, and then attach my earring here to the jump ring, and then the earring finding to the jump ring as well. Bring that through. Then as you can see, the way that the loop on my earrings is hanging from them, it fits with how I then made the loop at the end of the braid to how I want this earring to hang from the ear. So there we go. We now have a finished earring. So obviously you want to make 2 of these, and then once you've done that, like I said, if you just need to reshape it a little bit to fit each other, then you have your finished earrings. So here I now made the other one as well. So I now have a full pair of earrings, and they look like that. So obviously it's going to hang like this and have that nice teardrop shape. But like I said, you can make it round or whatever you prefer. Then you have a pair of earrings. So they're really simple and easy to make. And it's just using a basic braiding technique here and adding a bead in. For that bead's a little bit of pop of colour as well. So this is what they look like. So I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. And thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to do this Wirework cabochon using a 5-strand braid. And this is what it looks like. So I'm just using an oval stone for this, but you can use other sizes and shapes as well. This is just an example. And then this is just a floret stone. And then you have a 5-strand braid on the side, going all the way around, hugging it at the front to keep it in place.